Okay, excellent. So thank you all for joining today. Again, this webinar is on job seeking during COVID-19 and how to continue career growth during turbulent times. We're definitely in unprecedented times, and for all of us globally, we are in a situation where we haven't faced before, so we're all learning a new way of being. And so I thought it would be helpful to have this webinar. In one part, yes, I plan to share strategies that would be very helpful to you, that are solid search strategies, but on the other hand, also knowing that I'm no expert, there's no one who knows how to navigate this. We'll probably be much better at navigating it once it's behind us and, kind of lessons learned, but, really like to keep it open, would like this session to be as interactive as possible, where you're sharing your questions, you're sharing your concerns, and then that kind of moves the direction. I have several suggestions that I'll have for you that will keep you engaged, that will keep you, on track for your job search. But I'm also very happy to hear, where you need support, where you're struggling, where you'd like the direction of this conversation to go. So it would really be helpful for us that this session is interactive. Okay. One second. Okay. So just a little bit about me. So I'm a passionate career coach whose work is centered around getting my clients to determine what they're most passionate about, defining or redefining their why, then creating a fulfilling and purpose-driven career, and going after those seemingly impossible dreams. So just to add a little bit more, most of my background was in HR and recruitment. I had a career for about 15 years. I was up to director level, and I had reached all the goals that I wanted to reach professionally, educationally, but I still found that, I was doing work to do work. There was no passion or there was no engagement in what I was doing the higher up I went. So that pushed me into a pivot in my career, and that's actually what brought me into career coaching, which is something I've really been passionate about for a long time. And now my passion is to, and my life's work now is to allow, is to help people see what their passions is and move into them. Okay. So for today's agenda, I'd like for us to kind of just talk about the current state of affairs, how things are today, and kind of putting things into perspective. And we, I feel like we are so much bombarded by what is going on in the world. The 24-hour news cycles, that are just doom and gloom, 24 hours a day, that's just being thrown at us. So we don't get a lot of opportunity to really to sit back and see the positive of everything that's going on. And so that's one of really the goals is, putting things into perspective, realizing that, there can be positive that can come out of this situation that we're in. And then obviously looking at how we need to adjust our strategy. Again, we are dealing with a whole new paradigm. We have no idea where things will end, right? We don't know what things will look like 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 1 year from now, in the global market and the job market. So again, it's just seeing how we can adjust our strategy in order to accommodate for what we best can. Okay. And then obviously looking at some of the companies and sectors that are hiring, there's always opportunity in every, whatever's going on, there's always opportunity. So there are definitely some areas that are definitely hiring, and also seeing how you can be of service, how you can contribute to the solution. And then we'll end with a question and answer session for any questions that we haven't answered through the webinar. So I'd like to hear from some of you, and you can unmute yourself because I'm having a little bit of trouble with my chat box today. So if you could please unmute yourself and just Let us know, how have you been impacted by COVID-19? Have you been greatly impacted where it's kind of turned your life upside down? Were you kind of in between where, yes, you've had to make some changes, but, really, nothing that you can handle? And then for, I'm sure very few of us, life, continues as usual. Your schedule is the same. You're kind of going in and out as you were. So I'd love to hear from you as to how things have changed. And please feel free to unmute yourself.
Hi, this is Michael. I'll go ahead and.
Hey, Michael. Thanks again.
I would say it's kind of life as usual. I mean, I'm working remotely now. Nobody's going into the office.
Okay.
Not really going anywhere. Not many plans or anything. So it's impacted, but I'm one of the fortunate ones that I still have a job. Like I'm all things considered, not doing too bad. Just not doing many things, not too many plans. So kind of life as usual, but it's just a new type of usual.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear. And how are you kind of keeping positive and sane?
Honestly, just keeping myself busy. Working on the nano degree as best I can. Keeping busy with work and trying to not pay attention to all the news that's out there, staying relatively informed, but there's only so much I can take of, I don't know, kind of reiterating the same things like, yeah, it's spreading and all this and that, and can only take in so much. So trying to focus on what I have control over rather than, everything that I can't really impact much.
That's a great way to go about it. Okay, great. So thank you for sharing. Would anyone else like to share?
Hey, this is Miguel.
Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. So just kind of, again, coming back to the current state of affairs. So obviously all this was started by health crisis with the, very, very fast spread of the virus around the world that kind of put us all in shutdown. And then obviously that, affected, well, it's not so much of a financial crisis, but it did affect, a lot of the financial markets in a big way. A lot of homes and a lot of households and a lot of countries have been affected in a very real way financially. So it would be a financial crisis for many. And obviously, the subject of our topic today, there has been a huge slump in the job market. One, because of a lot of positions have gone away or kind of have gone on hold, for example, in sectors that have been, affected more greatly. And I would say that would be the leisure sectors, restaurants, the hospitality. So those have been the most severely affected, I would say, by this situation we're in, and they've had to kind of make the biggest adjustments, right? So, and then whilst everyone else might not have been affected, a lot don't know how this is going to go, and the operations have had to change drastically. So just from the fact of some jobs are not able to be done from home, or some companies don't really have the capability of onboarding people once, when you're remote, they need to be able to be in a physical facility to do that. So, so not only have some jobs completely come to a standstill, but others are, the logistics around, people not being able to travel, people not being able to go and report somewhere, that are holding back a lot of positions. And then there's also the economics, right? A lot of companies are not sure how this will affect them, so they're taking the conservative approach and kind of waiting it out to see, hey, let's kind of put our hiring on hold and see where this goes before we continue, and then we end up having to re-strategize and have layoffs and all that down the line. So so that's kind of where we are with our current state of affairs. So I love this quote on adversity. So I always believe that it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it. So it's your reaction to adversity, not the adversity itself, that determines how your life stories will develop. We have been in this situation time and time in history, through world wars, through the Great Depression, through, 9/11, through, financial market crashes. We've been here before. We've had to really, really pull up our socks and really show our resilience and show up for each other and show up for our families. But at the end of the day, there was always light at the end of the tunnel. The situation always came to an end in time. And so remembering that there's not much we can do about what is happening, but there is a lot that we can do in how we let it affect us and how we let it affect our families and those that we love. Okay, so perspective. Again, kind of going back to what I was talking about, it's not, we can go into doom and gloom, like, for example, a lot of the news cycles, and some of them, are more positive than others. Some really, really go down the negative spectrum, and some, try to be a little bit positive. But again, the nature of news is sharing the bad news over the good news. So what can you do to kind of shift your perspective? So you can focus on the positive. What is some of the positive that has come out for some of you out of this situation? I'd love to hear from you as to, what are things now that you can say, wow, this is something that I was never able to do that, now this opportunity is allowing me to do. What are for you some positive that you can get out of this situation, that you can think back on your life or your family or your career and say, wow, this is something, despite a very negative situation, there is something positive. I'd love if some of you can chime in. Okay, we have a very quiet group today. I hope you all are there. Let me see if I can pull up my chat box. For some reason, it disappeared and I'm not able to see it, which makes it very difficult to engage with those of you who don't want to come off of mute. But please do share. So while you're doing that, I will share some of the positive that happened for me. Right before we went into this global crisis, I was really overwhelmed. I had so much going on. I had so many projects happening with work, with coaching, and then I also had a lot of family events going on. I had a sister with a wedding. I had my first grandniece coming. I had, it was just a lot going on, and I was feeling very overwhelmed. And then this happened, and what happened was, oh yay, I got my chat box back. So what happened was, I was overwhelmed, and this gave me time. It has given me time to work on projects that I haven't worked on in forever. I love the fact that all these places are including Udacity, are offering so many free courses that, I love to learn. My life, if I could spend 50% of my time learning, actually, I think I could happily be 100% student for the rest of my life, but, I need to make a living. So I love that I can learn, and I can learn in all these different areas that I never thought I could learn before. I love that I have time. I love the peace that this has brought, as in you take a walk outside and, it's not busy. There's not as much activity going on. So it's really, really, really been such an amazing time in that sense, where, I always complain that I never had time, and now I have more time than I know what to do with, though I still find ways to keep myself busy. So I love that, that we have this time. I do see a few responses from you. So I applied from Emily, I applied for different location jobs as everyone is working remotely. I've learned to establish better boundaries between work life and personal life, which is great for a lot of people. You know, I know a lot of colleagues and friends who were never home. You know, they traveled 24 hours, you know, like almost 100% of the time. And now for the first time, they're actually in with their families for a month, and their children are loving it, and their wives are loving it. So that's definitely a positive. And then Abila mentioned, for me, it's been being able to work from home. Again, that's great. You know, so many companies were so resistant to working from home, and not because it's not possible, but it's kind of like, oh, I don't know if it really works or not, or I don't know if my employees can be productive, or, you know, there's lots of reasons why there's resistance to it. But now this has forced everyone to kind of like, hey, you know, you need to make it happen. And I feel that once we have this behind us, a lot of companies are going to shift their models. And just from the cost savings alone, you know, having to pay for rents and maintenance and electricity bills, and, you know, for those of you who have kitchens in your offices, you know, there's a lot of money that goes into that. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and whoever was speaking was saying that they normally travel a lot to go for interviews, and they were talking to one of the major broadcast shows that they normally do interviews with, and they were like, their budget is almost gone because of all the hotels and the tickets and all that they pay for their guests. Now they're not having to do that, and they're just having just as good interviews over Zoom or over audio. So this will definitely change how business happens in the future, and it will be for a good thing. Again, less, you know, I'm all about being better to the environment, so less of a carbon footprint, and giving us that option of being able to be a little bit more flexible and having that remote option. And then you also say, because I save a lot of time now not commuting, that's great. Getting to spend more time with family and spending less. Yes, that's a huge one. I know I get that from my family a lot, to where their budgets have gone like in half. You know, being out and about, you spend money on fuel, you spend money going from store to store, you spend money eating out. So this has definitely been great on the pockets. Like, I can't even remember the last time I put fuel in my car. It was probably more than a month ago, and I still have probably half a tank. So definitely a lot of financial savings. So it's always great to shift your perspective, especially when you're feeling overwhelmed. This is a great tool, you know, and it gets to all of us, right? We are like, when is this going to end? You know, we go from 1 month to 6 months to 12 months. Everyone has a different perspective of how this will play out. And we honestly, we don't know. There is no one who knows, right? But we'll find out, you know. But in the meantime, you can choose to focus on the negative, or you can choose to focus on the positive. So definitely, I'm happy to hear that a lot of you had, you know, can see the positive in this. Then the other is, what can we learn and what can we do? So in every negative situation in my life, I like to always look to see, what can we learn? What can we take away from this position, from this situation that we're in? You know, what is a positive? What can we learn from it? Just on our vulnerabilities as humans, on our vulnerabilities as organizations, and how can we make that better, you know, to support our families. You know, a lot of people have, you know, are in financial trouble, you know, so we can learn, okay, we really need to be more careful about what we spend on in the future, you know. And then what can we do? What can we do about this? There's a lot of what we cannot do, right? We cannot leave our homes. We cannot interact with people like we used to. You know, there's a lot that we cannot, but we can focus on what we, you know, but there is a lot that we can focus on. You know, we can focus on our job search, we can focus on building our networks, we can focus on doing all those projects that we've always wanted to do that we've never had the time or opportunity to do. So there is a lot that still can be done, and it's it's pivoting and focusing on that rather than what's out there and what we can do anything about. Okay, Joseph mentioned that I'm actually learning a lot from free courses on platforms like Udacity. That's great. So many of the online universities are offering free or very discounted courses, and oh my God, I love it. You know, you can choose about any area that you want to expand upon and take courses. So that's a great use of your time, Joseph. Okay, so let's move to the next. So, so we've kind of done this already, where we've shared some positive that's come out of your life from this experience. If there's any more, please feel free to keep typing on, and I'll bring that up as we go along. So here, this has called us to adjust our strategy. I'm not sure where some of you in the job search, and I'd love if you shared, and just tell me, were you in the process of a very active job search that has kind of gone on hold? Or were you in a stable job and you're still there, but you kind of want to keep your options open and see what comes out? Or maybe you're just studying and you want to, and graduating soon and are looking to see how this will affect you. Or maybe you are already in a position, but we're looking to pivot and want to see where this would affect you, because a lot of what we talk about will be helpful to know what your different situations are. So if you could just type in the chat box or unmute yourself and speak up on, you know, kind of where you are today in regards to your career or in regards to your job search, so that way I can, you know, in my recommendations, I can give you specific advice. Okay. So I'll give you a minute to do that. Let me see if there are any messages that have come in. Not yet. Okay. Okay. So again, adjusting our strategy requires us to be flexible, to get creative, and again, to focus on what is in our control, right? So we need to be flexible. You might have been looking for a very specific kind of position that has been affected by the current global situation that we're in. What can you do about it? Can you pivot and move into doing something different? You know, can you maybe decide, oh, instead of doing this, I need to provide for my family during this time. So what are other areas that I can look at that I can bring in income to support me until we're past this, right? So really getting flexible and looking at, yes, I really, really wanted to be in this type of role, but because this might not be happening at this time, let me see what else I can do until you know, things kind of come back to some level of normalcy and I can come back to my job search. And then obviously getting creative. You know, we are in a time where there's always opportunity, right? Some, you know, during the Great Depression, there were great companies that were created. You know, during some of the market crashes that we've had, there's certain companies that were created. You know, the Steve Jobs and I think Apple came out of one of the most difficult times financially that we were in at the time. And so it's really just figuring out how you can get creative and get around this, right? So what are some skills and talents that, okay, maybe it's away from your general career, but that you can use in order to get you through this time, right? So there's some people who are great bloggers, right? There's a huge need for communication out there. Companies are struggling to get their message out. You know, the governments and a lot of the nonprofits who are helping support during this time need people who can communicate to get their messages out. So how can you use your skills, talents, and abilities in a creative way to kind of get you through this time? And again, focusing in what's in your control. So reading on what some of the situations that we're in. So I'm finishing up my last month of a 6-month internship and looking for new opportunities. Haven't gotten any interviews yet. That's great. I'm glad that you're able to get that internship, you know, before all of this started. And again, when it comes to the job search or interviews, a lot of things have slowed down now. It doesn't mean that all the positions have gone away, but there's a lot that's happening with, hiring managers just being inundated with, having to adjust to the new normal, or, kind of positions going on hold, like I mentioned earlier, because the company wants to see where things are going. Or maybe the HR group is very busy with being, employees who are affected by COVID, or they themselves being affected. So then they can't really focus on onboarding any new people because they have, they're dealing with the situation at hand. So this is one of those rare times in history where we're kind of all in the same boat, the companies, the people who are running the companies, the job seekers, like we're all literally in the same boat. So just knowing that, we don't know what the different situations are of the different people that we're dealing with. So just having that patience and continuing to be proactive with your job search. One of the things that I'm a big proponent of is don't stop. Don't say, okay, well, I'm going to wait until this is over before I continue my job search. No, there is opportunity out there. Keep going at it, keep communicating. If you're already doing interviews with companies and things kind of went on hold, continuing being proactive, because at the end of this, you want to be ahead of the pack, when they're all of a sudden, oh, we're ready to bring people on board and blah, 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 hiring sprees. You want to be ahead of the pack. And that comes from continuing your job search, one, and communicating. So checking in with, the hiring managers, knowing that, hey, I understand the situation. I know that now is not the best of times, but, I'm still very much available, and I would like to move forward as soon as things are moving again. So someone else said, actively applying and interviewing, but companies are taking a long time to get back or not getting back in 10, 14 days. And again, I've kind of talked about that a little bit. And then someone else says, I'm currently working on getting a better role at the agency I work at. I've been learning a lot these days, and it's a great opportunity to be better at what I do and a bit more structured. That's great. So you're looking for an internal transfer. So you're learning and preparing for that. That's excellent. So Tara mentions, I'm searching for work in a new career. That's great. Recently started applying for opportunities, still haven't landed any interviews yet, and that's fine. So all, in different places of the search and career, but we'll definitely make sure we cover that as we go along. Okay, so sectors that are hiring for those of you who are looking for new opportunities, right? So we have government entities and nonprofits. So a lot of governments are having to really gear up and support their people, and as well as nonprofits who are assisting, especially communities and people who have been severely affected by COVID. So looking into them, seeing what kind of support that's needed, and seeing how your skills, talents, and abilities can line up with this. Obviously, healthcare, that's seeing a huge boom, especially in certain states that have been severely affected by COVID. Biotech and pharmaceuticals, again, there's this rush to find not only treatment, but what is it called? To find a way to deal with this virus, right? So again, there's a lot that's happening around research, around development. And so this is definitely an area that's growing. Remote meeting and communication companies. Who knew that Zoom would be as popular as it has become today? So Zoom and the likes, so anyone that's supporting communications and meetings. So Skype, Zoom, Microsoft Meetings, and WhatsApp, all of these companies have definitely seen a huge uptick because of what's going on. And they probably will continue for a while, because again, I really feel that how we do business is going to change. We're going to really move to a much bigger remote model than we were in before. So this will be, an area that will continue to grow. Business service firms. So again, businesses are still needing support in critical areas. There's still things that need to happen on a daily basis in businesses that cannot not happen. So that's definitely an area. Online learning companies, you've all seen, during times like now, there's always an increase in people looking to to just upskill, you know, and get stronger. So really looking at some of these online learning companies, and also a lot of the schools, you know, I know I'm in the US, I'm actually right outside of Virginia, and we, as soon as all this started, they shut down schools until the end of the year, you know, and we are on lockdown until beginning of June. So learning is going to have to move online, you know, and a lot of universities are doing that now. And the software that's needed for schools to be able to provide this kind of online learning. So not just the online learning schools, but companies that provide support and infrastructure for schools and all of that to be able to do online learning. Then obviously grocery stores have been greatly affected. Shipping and delivery services, Amazon, I'm sure most of you have heard, have been crazy hiring spree because, you know, people are ordering more than ever now because they can't go to stores. So, so these are definitely sectors that are hiring that you can look into. And they're not, and, you know, for example, you might say, well, there might not be any jobs in biotech or pharmaceuticals, or what can I do in healthcare? There's a lot of back-end support that goes into managing these type of positions. So yeah, you might not be a doctor or a nurse, but you can look for positions in the healthcare field that can support those doctors and nurses. Okay, and the next step is also seeing how you can be of service. You know, one of the things that really everyone is having a challenge with now is this not being able to do anything, right? I know I go crazy when I'm in a situation and I feel like there's nothing I can do about it, right? I love that I can continue to coach, I can continue to be working with what I love the most, but a lot of people don't really have that option, or a lot of people right now, their jobs have gone on hold, or they have positions where they can't really work from home, or they are having all this time and they're tired of taking courses, they don't want to do that anymore. So what else can you do, you know, and which can also be of benefit to your job search and to your career down the line. Again, looking to how you can be a part of the solution, you know, right? So much of what we do is focusing on the problem. We cannot move, there's no jobs, you know, everything has slowed down. I'm not hearing back from this, but what can we do? We can be a part of the solution, right? There's so many things that are popping up online. That allowing us, you know, I know a great amount of you are kind of in the tech sector, and I'd love to hear in the group chat what some of your specialty areas are, or, you know, what kind of the areas you're looking to move into. But, you know, Helpful Engineers is a great open source group looking for solutions to COVID-19, and they have lots going on around that, and I can post a link for that where you can, you know, check that out and see how you can support. GitHub, you can search GitHub for COVID-19 open source projects, again looking for solutions. I think the White House posted something the other day where they were looking for data scientists to help support them with making sense of all the data and all the happenings from this pandemic. And so there's lots of opportunities there that can be of use to you. And I will share them towards the end of the call in the group chat so you can check them out. But yeah, there's definitely lots of ways that you can pitch in and be of service. And this would look great on your resume. This is something that you can speak of once this is all said and done. And this is also something that can lead into other positions, right? You never know, some of these might lead into real positions down the line. So definitely looking into how you can pitch in and be of service. Okay. So I wanted to, for some of you, you know, to kind of just take a little bit of a pause, see how, if any of you would be interested in getting involved, how would you like to get involved? How do you feel about where you are in this process and what you can do? And yeah, I'd just like to take some time to kind of, you know, give pause and for you to share some of your thoughts on where we are. And if you have any questions on anything that I've said so far, feel free to unmute yourself and speak up, or type in the chat box and I'll respond. And while we wait for you, I will find the links. that I can share with you. Okay. Okay, so I'll share with you how I'm getting involved. So I found out that there's a lot of volunteer groups that are in the county that I'm in. So I signed up to be of assistance, and there's a lot that can be done where you don't even need to go anywhere. So there's one where, you know, a lot of elderly people are really, you know, feeling lonely and just, you know, been greatly affected by what is going on. And so just, you know, having a positive caller where, you know, call and check in with them on a regular basis, how you doing, and kind of just, you know, spend some time with them and coaching them through, you know, any difficulty that they're having through the situation. So that's one way I've gotten involved. Another way is I have gotten involved with the Virginia Medical Corps reserves. And again, I have no medical background, but they, you know, they need a lot of support, you know, whether it's logistical support or administrative support. So, so I signed up recently with them to kind of give them support in order to help the people that are really out there who are in need. So Abila mentioned that you'll definitely check out the Helpful Engineers open source group and see if there's any project I can contribute with C, C++ skills. That's great. And honestly, right now we need some positive, and there's nothing that makes me feel as good as giving back, especially when I'm in a difficult situation. You know, sometimes taking the time to really, you know, take the focus off yourself and your family and being for the greater good, you know, there's no better way to really improve your outlook. And then Haneen says, I'm a web mobile developer, and I'm actually thinking of fun projects to share online, like games with friends and such. Hope that can be helpful to take off some stress. That's a great idea. You know, right now people are looking for stuff to grasp on, you know, like I've seen a lot of these puzzles go around and all these, you know, kind of just challenges. So that's a great way to keep people engaged and entertained. And, you know, I see a lot of people creating Facebook groups where, you know, it's all about just engaging in a positive way and everyone kind of sharing their strengths and their thoughts and all of that. So that's great. So from a marketer's point of view, I think it's important to give back, offer support, entertainment, or solutions that make people feel more safe. That's what I'm doing with the brands I work for. And that's excellent. Again, balancing out all the negative news cycle, you know. I'm really, really big on that. And I'm loving all the positive messaging that's out there. Like I make it my intention, you know, I honestly, I cannot handle it. I realized after the first 2 weeks when I was glued to the news and it was really calling me, it really affected my state of being. And when I really disconnected all of that and really focused on the type of media that I was taking in and focused on the positive, it's changed my view of how I'm going about the situation, which again, if you're going in with a positive attitude, that will affect your job search. That will affect how you engage with people. And everyone is needing that positivity right now. So that's great. So I'm glad to hear that. And I believe being empathic is key, and we are all going through the same, exactly my point, as in we're all in this globally. You know, there's not one country that I know of that has not been affected by this. You know, we are literally in this together. And so just realizing that no matter who you're coming across, you're kind of in the same boat. So being empathic, being kind, being, you know, supportive in any way that you can. And then Joseph mentions, I'm a recently engineering graduate. I can help in any project that's data related. The skills I'm learning from the data analyst, Udacity degree. That's great, Joseph. Again, there's that call from the White House that they're looking for data analysts and data scientists. So again, I'll post a link to that. And so feel free to look at that. You know, check GitHub for COVID-19 sources, check the engineering group that I mentioned earlier that you can look into. So yeah, you know, great ways to get involved. And I'm so glad to hear so many of you are open to that. So that's excellent. Okay, my apologies for that. I was actually looking to share the resources that I was just speaking about. Okay, so let's move on to the next. So bringing it back together, you know, again, I keep coming back to this because it's so important. There's opportunity in every situation. As drab as a job market seems, there are people that are hiring. I know people that have received job offers this week, you know. So just because it's slowed down, just because you're not hearing back, does not mean you need to stop. Continue what you're doing. Continue remaining positive. Sometimes you may need to take a break to kind of just get yourself together and you know, just amp up again, you know, whatever it takes, you know, do something that you love, do something that kind of takes your mind off things, and then come back to what your goal is. And if that's job search, continue that, right? But you know, the key is just realizing that there's opportunity in every situation. There will be an end to this. This will not be forever, right? So, and you want to make sure that you are ahead of the pack when this happens. So continue doing what you're doing, continue building your networks, connecting with people online, finding people that you admire and seeing if you can reach out to them and speak to them and connect with them in meaningful ways. You know, continue your job search, sending follow-ups to hiring managers, you know, at whatever stage that, at whatever stage you are in the job search. And then taking into consideration your mental, physical, and emotional health. Again, this is huge, you know. If you're not in the right state of mind or state of being, then forget a job search, forget a career, forget you know, I know people who haven't been able to work, you know, because they're so stressed out about what's going on and how this will affect their families or how this will affect their lives, or, you know, and they just can't focus on their work at this time. So definitely making sure that, you know, you're taking into consideration your mental, physical, emotional health and doing what you can. So getting out there, being active, exercising, you know, getting fresh air. Yes, we're, you know, we're most, I know in some states you're not, you know, like for example in California, I know there's a complete shutdown, but in some places you can still go out for walks when you're, as long as you're social distancing, you know, so make sure you're getting exercise. If you're not able to go outside, you know, look up YouTube videos where you can exercise that can help you get rid of some of that stress. You know, look at doing whatever appeals to you to get you mental peace of mind, whether, you know, for some people it could be yoga, for some people it could be meditation, for some people it could be art, you know, so for some people it could be playing with their children or watching funny videos, but whatever it takes, make sure that in every single day you're taking time to care for your mental and also your emotional. You know, again, we're in unprecedented times that are really stepping up a lot of our concerns, you know, and a lot of our fears, you know, our subconscious fears are coming up to surface. You know, we're going to be okay. Am I going to be homeless? And so really finding a way to express those emotions. Don't suppress them and go and open the fridge every time you're feeling, you know, an uncomfortable feeling. Look at it, you know, write it down. If you have someone that you trust, share it with them, you know, whether it's a family member or a friend, you know, call them, tell them how you're feeling, allow yourself to be vulnerable with them, and they will likely be in the same situation, you know, but just know that, again, it's by sharing and really looking at where you are is what's going to help you get through this at the end. And then obviously crowding out the negativity with positive steps towards your career goals. Again, there's so much out there. You know, try and cut down the news sources as much as you can. And it should be on an as needed basis. It shouldn't be 24 hours a day, you know, and I know sometimes, you know, it's almost addictive, right? You just want to hear more and more and more and more. And there's nothing that's changing. You know, we've pretty much at the apex of what's out there. We already know what we need to do. You know, we need to stay away from people. We need to, you know, keep washing our hands. We need to really stem the spread of this virus. and the faster that we can do that, the faster we can get out of it on the other end. So really, there's no need for you to engage in the negativity day in and day out. So if you have people, or you have news sources, or you have, if it's social media that's getting you on the negative side of things, check in with yourself and say, hey, whenever I do this, I feel this afterwards, and stop doing the things that make you feel really low and negative, and do more of the things that help you feel more positive, right? So what can you do towards your career goals? Visioning, coming back to your goals. What was the most important to you? Why did you want to, get into what it is that you're doing? I did a webinar a few weeks ago or a few months ago on goal setting and visioning. That's a great time to come back to that. Going back to that space of imagination, and what drives you, what are you passionate about, and continuing to focus on that, because that will still become a reality if that's still the most important thing to you, and you don't allow this thing to kind of take over. And then the last thing is obviously finding a way to be of service. Again, there's no, one thing about this situation, it's connecting us as a humanity in a way that nothing has in a long time, and really coming to the end of this and knowing that you contributed in a positive way, whether it's through your work, whether it's even just, and you don't have to go there and do anything crazy. You don't have to leave your house. It could be just motivating your coworkers, suggesting a Zoom happy hour, or just reaching out to someone who you feel has been, super quiet or just seeming disengaged, but you can reach out in big or small ways, but knowing that everything will have an effect on the whole, and the more smaller acts of service that we can do individually, each of us step in and do what we can and do something positive, there will be a huge impact globally. So that's pretty much what I have. I did share some of the resources that I talked about. So the Helpful Engineering Group, and I included a link to that in the chat. I included the link for GitHub to search for COVID-19 resources. I included the link for the White House call to arms for data scientists, as well as internships. So right now, some of you are looking to pivot careers or move into a whole new career. So I know a lot of we were coming into the summer season, and so a lot of our full-time students were looking to do internships over the summer to gain experience. And now that's probably gone away with the current situation that we're in. So looking into virtual internships or remote internships. So I've included a couple of links for that, because that's definitely something you can continue to gain experience even in the situation that we're in. I think there was one of you that mentioned that they're completing a 6-month internship now, and we're starting to go into the job search. So that's something to definitely look into. So those are a few resources that you can look into how to get back. For those of you who are job searching, there are things to think about. Like, for example, now there's no one who's doing in-person interviews. So learning how to do video interviews and showing up in the right way. What is video interview etiquette? Making sure that you kind of have practiced before, you kind of looked at yourself. It's very, very different speaking to a screen versus speaking to someone, especially if they're also not on video on the other side. So learning kind of this way of being, looking up ways in where you can show up and be, and really show up in your best way, but over video online versus in person. So looking up how to do that, and again, networking, looking how to build your network online. Now is a great time where a lot of people who are really, really busy, who might have never had a chance to reply to your LinkedIn message or any of that, now might have time to connect. So looking to, continuing reaching out to people who seem important to you, and just learning as much as you can, scheduling a 5-minute call, asking them questions over email, whatever it might take, but continuing to make a priority to build that network. So are there any final questions or concerns that you have that I can answer for you? Any resources that I can give you? Now would be the time to ask. And I'll give you just a few moments. Again, you're welcome to unmute yourself, or you can send a question over the chat box. It seems a lot of this group prefers to chat, which is great. So just please share any last questions that you have. If you have any specific challenges that you're having that you'd like me to address, definitely let me know as well. Okay, any questions? Okay, so while I wait for questions, I'll go on to the next slide. So Udacity is here to support you, right? We have so many resources that are available to you. We have a ton of resources online, and I'll click, I'll actually share a link with all of you on just the various career resources that we have. Let me see. But yeah, we have resume, now again, we have time, right? So now is a great time to really review your application material. Make sure that it's perfect. We have a resume review process. We have a LinkedIn review process. You can submit your GitHub, any cover letters. Use this time to make sure your application materials are tip top. Make sure your LinkedIn is tip top. We have so many resources on our Career Center. We obviously have, you can join us for one-to-one coaching sessions where we can really walk you through any specific challenges that you're having. We're actually having weekly career coaching events on Tuesdays at 9 a.m. PST that are, kind of very casual, but again, we created them to address the situation that we're in and any specific questions that you might have within the job search, within career, specifically during COVID-19. So this is every week. We normally have 3 or 4 career coaches on there answering your questions, sharing best practices. A lot of times we're all learning from each other. No one knows the best way to navigate this. So, so this is a great time for you to connect with other Udacity students, with other Udacity alumni, as well as career coaches. Again, this is on a weekly basis on Tuesdays at 9 a.m. Pacific time or 12 noon Eastern time. We have the student hub where you can ask questions and they can get answered either by the students or career coaches, and normally we'll get back to you pretty quickly. We have career coaching hours within the student hub where a career coach is available there live and can answer your questions. So we have lots of resources. I did share a link for our Career Resources Center. You can click on that and see what's available to you from your classroom. You can click on career and see also what's available to you. So definitely take advantage of all the Udacity career resources and really get now that we have the time, get your resume, get your LinkedIn, and get all of that into top shape. Get us to review it. If there's a specific area in your career that you really want to do a deep dive, if you want to prepare for technical interviews or, or are looking for specific advice in an area that you're really struggling in, schedule a one-on-one call with one of us and we'll be happy to support you. Magdi provided a great link for virtual internships on the group inside Sherpa.com. So please, there's lots of great resources. And just to let you know, at the end of the call, you can save the chat you see 3 buttons. And you just click on that, it will have the option to save the chat. So you can save as we go along or the different links that we're sharing, or you could save at the end. But that's a great way to kind of keep up with all the resources that are being shared. So thank you, Magdi, for sharing that on the virtual internships. And so we have a question. So I have been searching for a job for the last 2.5 months. In such case, shall I now go with intern unpaid or wait long? Can you put your thoughts on it? I would say getting any kind of experience is better than none. So rather than just sitting, try and see whatever comes first, right? So if there's any unpaid internships available, go for it. If there are any open source projects, you can get you can get involved in, because again, that's experience. The key is to continue gaining experience even during this time. So yes, I would say go for whatever it is that can get you working and productive and getting experience until you can get a position. So Nimal, I would definitely say, take whatever you can. Obviously, your priority will be to get something that's paid and the position that you really want. But this is where this time calls you to be flexible. Okay. And then Miguel mentioned, I need help with career transition tips. I have been driving for 4 years and I'm trying to get a data analyst job. But I do have the gap and don't know how the experience will help the data analyst job. So again, Miguel, it's not focusing on what you've done, but what what you can do, right? So right now you can get involved. There's so many open source projects around data engineering and data analysis. See how you can get involved and get experience. Look at how you can get internships. Initially, while you're doing your current job, driving, you can still be doing internships. Again, we have the virtual internships. We have open source projects that you can get available, that you can get experience with and put that on your resume. And once you have a little bit of experience, then it becomes easier to get a job. The other thing is offering yourself to companies that are struggling right now. So for example, I mentioned that I am volunteering with the Virginia Medical Reserve Corps. They might need data analysts, and so finding out how some of these public service organizations and volunteer organizations need support, because they do need it at this time from an analytics perspective, and seeing how you can be a support. Again, that's something that you can add to your resume and could lead into a job in the future. So, and Miguel, feel free to schedule a call with the one-on-one coach, and that way, and that again comes with your Udacity nano degree, where you can get more advice on that. And then Haneen says, I have the option to extend my internship or end it at 6 months. I can't decide whether to do that or end it at 6 months and look for jobs. If you can do a little bit of both, Haneen, that would be great. If you can maybe let them know if you can continue on a month-to-month basis, and just be honest with them and let them know that obviously you need to be able to transition into a full-time position, but you're happy to continue to support them until you do that. And so that way you're still continuing to gain experience, but maybe you can even reduce your hours if you want to put more hours into your job search. So maybe say instead of 40 hours a week, I'll do 30 hours a week, and then, and continue supporting you until, I can get a job. So if you can do both, that's great, because again, you want to continue gaining as much experience as you can, because we don't know how long we're in this for. We could be in this for 3 weeks and life goes back to normal, or we could be in this for 6 months. So it's again being flexible and being prepared for both the best case scenario and the worst case scenario. So it looks like we've come to the end of our time here. It was such a pleasure speaking with you all. I do hope that, this was helpful for you. Please use the resources that, I gave you. Go to udacity.com/events to see links to any future career related events that we're having. Again, I sent the link on the career, on all the various career sources that are available to you through Udacity. I'll post that again. So please use that, but really just remain positive, see how you can be of service. Do not, continue your job search, continue focusing on what it is that you want, and we'll all come out of this. So thank you all for being so attentive, and I wish you all a great weekend ahead. And for those of you who celebrate Easter, happy Easter. Thank you, everyone. And please remember to save the chat, the 3 little dots, and you press save chat, and that will save the chat for you. All right, thank you.